Hi everybody, Allison Morrow here in the Airstream trailer that my husband Lynn and I purchased. We are gutting it and refurbishing it. If you haven't kept up on the channel, basically they're going to turn this into our home and buy a big plot of land and get the heck out of the city. That's the plan. Obviously, we have not made a ton of progress because I am currently sitting on one of the drawers that we just removed but have not moved into the garage. Lynn is working right now, so I'm flying solo on this video. But given the current climate of the sort of political and cultural scene in America right now, I felt like now is the time to strike on this video because it really does get to the heart of why we are making this move. And though we have intimated at why we are doing this, we haven't really said why this off-grid-ish move of ours is so off-grid-ish. Now, you hear that term and you may think, okay, they're going to be like the next Naked and Afraid or like Bear Grylls 8.0. Though Lynn definitely has a background as a special operations Marine and could skin a rabbit probably with his teeth, that is not what the point of all of this is. When we say off-grid, we don't just mean like off the power grid. We also mean like off the grid of go along with it mass behavior that we see all around us every day. It means kind of regaining the sovereignty of our individualism, our freedom as Americans to make good choices for our families and for the people around us, instead of throwing our fist up at Facebook or at mainstream media, to really take a look at our own choices and actions and our ability to think critically about what's going on around us and to be able to use that critical thought to make better choices instead of just accepting reality for what it is. We see off-grid as more than just taking this trailer to the middle of nowhere and forgetting about what's going on around us. We're actually doing that in order to get a better perspective because it's just getting so loud. It is not hard to see that we have all started to sort of put ourselves on these grids. We tend to protect whoever is on the grid with us, and we are without question against the person who is on the other grid. Even if there are cross sections of places where we actually might be able to move forward, it doesn't matter. We don't always want to listen to facts. We just want to listen to the feelings we have that come with our little gritty part. Gritty, see where I got that gritty, but like gritty? That part of reality, we're just going to stay there in our little safety zone, and we're not going to get to know anybody or any thoughts that may actually be factual but come from somebody that is on the other grid. Real fast, today I go to the farmer's market, which is where I get about 95% of the food for our family. I really love buying direct from farmers because I get to know the person who raised the animal or the produce, and I know stuff about them, like their families, what they love, the books they're reading, what they do on their weekends. If they ever do have a day off, they know what I do on my weekends. They know what I do for a living. I haven't been to the farmer's market in the last couple weeks because we've either been hiking or I had to work a couple Saturdays. It's on Saturday mornings. There's a summer market that's open near my horse, so I've been going there. And I show up today and Brent Olson of Olson Farms, Northeast Washington. Hey, Brent. What's up? He says, Allison, where have you been? I have been scared because I have not seen you in the last couple weeks. I was actually going to try to find you on social media and make sure you're okay. How many people in my life, like my regular acquaintances, family or friends, check in to see if I'm okay? Not really that many of them. So to have a farmer actually say that, I felt like that was a pretty big deal. And that made me really happy because it meant like Brent not only feeds our family, but he actually cares. He cares. And so here's where this really starts to get like blow your mind crazy, right? Because Brent and I actually know each other, we have like face-to-face communication, we actually might be able to sit down and have dialogue about topics that we disagree with and listen to each other and learn from each other because we know something about each other besides a quick sentence on Facebook every day that is vitriolic and potentially superficial and doesn't really encompass the complexity of what it means to be a human. I am wondering if, in combination with somewhat of a tribalism that's developed on mainstream news, if also because of social media and technology, frankly, like I'm a big fan of technology, I'm obviously using it to get into your household or onto your mobile device right now, but because of it, it's kind of isolated us from our actual relationships, from like actually doing things that humans for many, many, many years just sort of took for granted, like knowing how your food grows. And because you had relationships based on that local economy of goods and sharing of ideas, you knew that reality was complex. But because it's gotten so easy to isolate and simplify because of technology, because our relationships are so shallow, because social media just lets us scroll through basic headlines, whether it's a news headline or it's a headline posted by your friend who just hates this person or loves that person and you disagree, so you dislike or they like, and then these fights explode. So like Brent, because we've developed this relationship, because I don't just go to the grocery store or order on Amazon Fresh, which no problem with that or anything. Obviously, we all have to go to the grocery store. Not everybody has the luxury of going to a farmer's market. I get it. But because of that, I actually know Brent. And so Brent knows when I go missing. I know if Brent's not there for the weekend, I can talk to him. And because we've developed that relationship, if Brent said he voted a certain way that I was like, I don't know if that was such a great choice, I would probably be like, but you know what? Brent's a pretty good guy. So maybe Brent just thinks a little differently than I do on that particular topic. Maybe that is possible today. And so, again, this is not to say that we want to move to the middle of nowhere because we want to just sit around a campfire with no clothes on and see how long we can last in 25-degree weather. This off-gridish idea is really removing ourselves from the stickiness of institutions. Is it institutional food? Is it institutional feeling? Is it institutional thought? Is it something that people or groups or just headlines or political parties have told us is true? What is actually true? What is really real? That is so hard in today's world, not just because you're scrolling through, you don't know, is that fake news? Is that real? Is it real news that people call fake? What is it? I can't tell you that most of the time that I go on social media, I feel better when I get off of it. Actually, a lot of times I feel a lot worse. I'm not having real relationships with any of these people. They become sort of virtual reality relationships. And so I don't know any of the things that you do on your daily life that are very similar to me. I only know that one dissenting view that you have, and then that becomes all I know about you, so that becomes you. So what does any of this have to do with an Airstream? And yes, I did change my outfit because last night when I was finishing the other video, my camera ran out of juice, so I decided to finish it up today. And I just went to ride my horse, so I look like this, which actually is pertinent to the video because I want to spend a lot more time looking like this. I've been doing a lot of reading about how we got here in this point in history in American culture, and one of the ideas that's stuck with me is freedom and responsibility as focal points for what it means to be an American, that we were given the opportunity when this country was created to have the freedom to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. But with it came this idea of responsibility, that it's up to us to make good choices for our communities. Growing up with a horse actually was one of the main ways that I learned responsibility. I got a lot of freedom. My parents would drop me off at the barn for 9 hours a day, and of course we got into some trouble, but it was worth it to learn action, reaction, consequence of behavior. And I got to see that with the freedom of having a horse and the privilege of being able to go to the barn and be away from my parents for hours at a time, also came the responsibility of taking care of that horse. But it does seem sort of like the world around us is losing both of those. This is out of bounds, that's out of bounds. We can't have these discussions anymore. When I was in graduate school, it was starting to get to that point where it was there were certain topics that were so touchy that we couldn't even discuss them. But the problem is, if you can't have discussions, then you can't learn and you can't grow. And frankly, the people who are willing to listen to me say things that now I would say, that was probably pretty ignorant. Maybe I shouldn't have thought that, and I've changed my mind about, the only reason is because there were folks who had grace enough with me to listen and debate respectfully without a sense of superiority, and I listened to them, and I changed my mind, and I'm grateful and owe those folks the thoughts that I now have, which I believe are moving me in a positive direction instead of towards tribalism and my own kind, because I'm just scared to talk to anybody who's different. And again, having those conversations really boils down to having real relationships with real people. And relationships that aren't just based on politics. Relationships that are based on things that we have in common, not just a common enemy. And so we're sort of testing out the American experiment. Can we both find renewed freedom, but with it, the responsibility to say, you know what? I can't really point out the dirty laundry of somebody else until I make my own bed. You may or may not know, but I'm an environmental journalist. I'm really passionate about it, and I want to have that information, and I want to say that the change begins with me. So the Airstream is really more than a trailer. It's an experiment in what it means to be an American. Can we in America in 2018, or however long we're working on this trailer and living in it, say that this country affords us the freedom and the opportunity to be responsible and make good choices and make the world a better place because of those choices? I think we're really at a point in history where we have the opportunity to take a breath, step back for a second, look at our own block of influence and decide whether we're going to start there or we're going to continue hounding on people outside of that sphere. I just want to live the message. But it's bigger than that. It's really because at this point, we have kind of a revolution underway. And so here we are saying, you know what? We want to find liberty. Liberty of thought, liberty of action, believing that our choices ultimately are the most powerful. If you're noticing that, you feel like you want to start looking for opportunities to change your sphere of influence, to sort of untangle yourself from ideologies that have turned into hysteria, to figure out how to lead by example because people are watching, come along on our journey with us. We may not have the same passions that you do, but we do have the same passion to be independent, free thinkers that are having conversations with people who are different than them. And at the end of the day, having conversations at all. Can an Airstream change the world? I don't know. But if we can at least start with the very basic building blocks of a society, our relationships, our neighbors, then maybe we can do something. Lynn and I both work, and we work pretty hard, so this Airstream could look like this for a little longer than I had originally planned. Where there are lemons, you can make lemonade, and I think what I'm going to just start doing is maybe having these weekly videos where we talk about this sort of plan, idea, hope for new freedom, new independent thoughts, whatever I'm reading, whatever Lynn's reading, and share ideas with us. If you have books, authors, thoughts as you've been combing through, chewing on these things, we'd love to hear them. And also love to hear how you're taking action to move your community and your neighborhood in a positive direction. Again, I'm Allison, my husband Lynn, dog Chaka. Love to have you come along for the journey. See you next time.